Well, welcome back to 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse. Can't go really weird cinema with this because it's sort of different because one of the listeners, Patrick, I believe it was, asked me my thoughts on Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, another Peckinpah film. And I was thinking, because right after The Wild Bunch, he did the Ballad of Cable Hogue, and I hadn't seen that in a while, so I said, all right, let's do a Peckinpah thing here. Because, like I said, I hadn't seen Ballad of Cable Hogue. It came out right after, that was his film right after The Wild Bunch. He brought back Strother Martin and L.Q. Jones, and Jason Robards is Cable Hogue, and it opens up where they actually, I don't know if this is legit or not, they shot a Gila monster for real or something. Not sure whether that, I read something, but who the fuck knows. Anyway, it's these three desert rats stranded out there, and they decide to take all the supplies that Jason Robards has and leave him out to die in the desert. And that's Strother Martin and L.Q. Jones. So somehow this guy finds water near where the stagecoach is. And he makes a deal to become a way station and sets this whole thing up with this well and stuff. Then goes into town, and there's this whole side thing where this fake preacher played by David Warner shows up and, was going to advocate for him, but Cable was pretty smart and made him stay there while he went in and filed a claim on the whole thing, so he got it. In there, he meets a prostitute, Stella Stevens, who's really hot in this thing. And it's this, it basically is sort of a weird romance, and it's sort of maybe I'm reading into this too deep, but it might mirror Sam's own personal relationships with women where he thinks he gets the brass ring and at the end it's taken away from him. Because it doesn't end well. Even though she's going to go to San Francisco and ply her trade, and he's going to meet her out there, but he has to get revenge on the two people that fucked him over. And they actually show up on the stage, and he infers that he has a lot of money hanging around, and he's been doing great and shit, so of course they go back and try to rob him, and LQ gets killed, and Strother gets outgunned and basically is enslaved by him, and he's just going to make him walk across the desert in his underwear. And basically makes him his houseboy out there until Stella comes back, where she obviously had hooked up with a rich man. He passed away, now she's set for life, and let's go to San Francisco. Well, all well and good until this fucking car loses control and runs over fucking Cable Hogue. And it ends with him laying in bed dying, and it's sort of like the unrequited love deal, I guess. But actually, that's one of the two films that is Sam's favorite. This one and Junior Bonner. So now we go into Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which was really fucking cut up for theatrical distribution back then. It seems that the studio head was a guy named James the Smiling Cobra Avery or something, and he delighted in fucking with directors and fucking up the creative flow and did everything he could to fuck with Sam. And basically, they cut this thing down to a point where when I saw it in the theaters, I wasn't that impressed with the whole fucking thing. But then they had come out, and this is going back to the days of Laserdiscs, where, okay, everybody thought Laserdisc would be the next big thing, and they had a director's cut on Laserdisc and then, on DVD, and it's been recently restored and put out by Criterion. So it's really a good film. And the thing is, you really have to look at what Sam does with actors, and he basically gets the best out of them. And even if he has to bully him and, threaten him and whatever, he gets the best out of him. And it's sort of, in this thing, being that he was fucked over with by the studio, they had cast a bunch of almost like the last batch of living Western character actors out there. They had Richard Jekyll, Dub Taylor, Elijah Cook Jr., LQ was back, R.J. Armstrong, Harry Dean Stanton, Chill Willis, Jack Elam, a whole bunch of people. And Gene Evans was another one. John Davis Chandler, one of his guys, Jason Robards again. So he packed it. And in an interview with Jack Elam, Jack said that basically he was supposed to be there for 3 weeks, but Sam kept him there for 3 months. So Jack had to get paid for 3 months instead of 3 weeks, and he probably did that with all the character actors as a, hey, fuck you to Jimmy, you know? And then there was another thing, too, where I remember something where he was hooked up to a bottle of vodka, like an intravenous thing on a stretcher, and sent a publicity photo out of that, and LQ came in and he goes, I don't even know if you're still breathing at this point. Because I think that's when he was like really bad into the booze and coke at the same time. And because I remember also that Jack said he was tapped to be one of the bounty hunters in the Wild Bunch, but he blew it off saying, I got to go down to Mexico with Sam for how many months and to hang out with Sam and work with Sam. You got to drink like Sam. And he goes, that would have killed me. So, and then there's the other thing too where Bob Dylan had wrote a song. It might have been Knocking on Heaven's Door. I'm not exactly sure. I know something was written and it was played for Sam, and Sam teared up and started muttering, son of a bitch, god damn it. And then he wrote a role as alias for Bob Dylan. And I remember in an interview, I think it was with Chris Christopherson, that they said they were sitting there watching the dailies, and there was something about that they had a bad lens, and they didn't know it. And when they ran this thing, Sam just stood on a fucking chair in front of the screen and pissed the big S on the screen and stormed off. And Bob Dylan looked at him and he goes, what did you get me into here? So, yeah, there was a whole thing with a fucking lens, and I think it was the scene when Slim Pickens died that they wanted to shoot that, and somehow he got a hold of the lens and they weren't allotting for time, but he did it on his own after hours with the actors because a lot of his guys rallied around him because he stood up against the establishment. They're like, yeah, go get him, go get him. So remember R.G. Armstrong saying, yeah, fuck these guys, and let's do this. So, like I said, the end result was they fucked him at the end by basically, taking what he had and cutting a lot of it out, and it makes a lot more sense now. So it's definitely, there's something about Peckinpah. I've never seen a bad Peckinpah film, and even with David Warner went to work for him again in Cross of Iron, which is another underrated film that Sam did with very little money and getting fucked over in Europe and shit like that. But it's like I said, Sam, basically whatever he does to get the best out of you, he will. I remember another interview with R.G. Armstrong saying, and you remember the thing where he's questioning, Chris Christopherson as Billy the Kid. Billy the Kid was like handcuffed to the chair and shit. So he does his thing, and Sam walked by him and he goes, I don't believe a fucking thing you just did. And RG goes, I was so fucking pissed off, I actually hit him the next time. And he goes, and that's what he fucking wanted. He wanted the realism. He didn't want it fucking phoned in. He wanted to fucking see it. And it's like, even if you go back at the Wild Bunch, you just look at how the end sequence in the whorehouse with William Holden and Warren Oates, where they didn't say anything. You just had to look at him and you knew what the fuck was going on. They conveyed it that way because Sam got it out of him that way. So it's a tribute to Sam, and I'm sorry he left us so early because God only knows what he could have done. But he just left a hell of a legacy and was a hell of a director. So that's all I got for you today. So thanks for subscribing, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the flip side.